And we begin this morning with the death of former President George Herbert Walker Bush at the age of 94. For much of his life, Mr. Bush was dedicated to serving his country. He was a World War II veteran, a congressman from Texas, head of the CIA, and, of course, a vice president.
He served only one term in the White House after Bill Clinton defeated him in the '92 election. But his son, George W. Bush, our 43rd president, was elected to 2 terms.
They are only the second father and son chief executives following John Adams and John Quincy Adams. Norah O'Donnell has more on the life of the 41st president.
It was 2011 when President Barack Obama awarded George H.W. Bush the highest honor a civilian can receive, the Medal of Freedom.
I'm a man who sees life in terms of missions, missions defined, and missions completed.
The son of a U.S. Senator, he enlisted in the Navy on his 18th birthday, becoming the Navy's youngest fighter pilot during World War II. In 1944, his plane was shot down in the Pacific.
I knew that if something didn't pick me up, I would be captured.
He returned home a hero. Just weeks later, he married Barbara Pierce. They had met at a Christmas dance several years before.
I think he's the wisest, smartest, most decent, caring person I know.
After his graduation from Yale in 1948, they moved to Texas. He built an oil business, and together they built a family. They would have 6 children, but their first daughter died of leukemia at age 3.
They had a profound effect on me and on Barbara. And I think that horrible incident drew us even closer together.
What a day, y'all.
In the early 60s, Mr. Bush pivoted to politics. He won 2 terms in the U.S. House, then served Presidents Nixon and Ford as UN ambassador, envoy to China, and director of the CIA. In 1980, he campaigned for the GOP presidential nomination, but instead became Ronald Reagan's vice president. 8 years later, he won his party's nomination.
I want a kinder and gentler nation.
He waged a successful presidential campaign against Democrat Michael Dukakis.
That I will faithfully execute.
The 41st president called for a new world order as the global scene shifted rapidly. The Berlin Wall fell, and then the Soviet Union. In Panama, Mr. Bush sent troops to overthrow the corrupt regime of Manuel Noriega.
The day of the dictator is over.
But a battle with another dictator had only just begun. When Saddam Hussein's Iraqi forces rolled into Kuwait, President Bush assembled a global coalition. Operation Desert Storm liberated Kuwait in 6 weeks. His popularity was sky high after the war, but it plunged as he ran for re-election the next year against Bill Clinton and independent Ross Perot. The promise he made in his first campaign came back to haunt him.
Read my lips. No new taxes.
He did raise taxes, and amid an economic slowdown, he wound up losing in an electoral landslide.
I couldn't do what Ronald Reagan, my friend and predecessor, did so well, communicate effectively enough with the people, and that was my biggest shortcoming.
President Bush's legacies include a political dynasty. His son George served as governor of Texas, then president of the United States. Son Jeb was elected governor of Florida and was a presidential contender. But perhaps his life's greatest legacy is his marriage to Barbara. The Bushes were together for 73 years, longer than any other president and first lady in U.S. history.
Our family has had a front row seat for the most amazing love story.
At Barbara's funeral, Jeb Bush read a love letter his father wrote his mother on their wedding anniversary in 1994.
I have climbed perhaps the highest mountain in the world, but even that cannot hold a candle to being Barbara's husband.